Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Christine, could you do the roll call, please?
James Barnes,
Here.
Art Sperber,
Here.
Larry Chesney,
Here.
Sarah Chavilicek,
Here.
Peter Gower,
Here.
Frank Peterson,
Here.
Charles Reno,
Here.
Diane Vanderwell,
Here.
and Kevin Weisky.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Weisky, could you lead us in the salute to the flag, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Item 3 is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Weisky, second by Commissioner Vanderwell, and any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes, March 22nd, 2017.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Chavilicek and a second by Commissioner Vanderwell. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain from that one. I wasn't here at that meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Gower abstains. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine, is there any public comment? Okay, thank you. All right, item 6A, this is public hearing, regional plan conformance review, project of regional significance, Lakes at Sky Vista Parkway Apartments, CR 17-003. Chris, are you the presenter on this, I believe?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Chris Tolley, Regional Planner. The case before you, there we go. Case before you is the conformance review for the Lakes at Sky Vista Apartments project of regional significance. The site is generally located north of Highway 395 on the south side of Sky Vista Parkway, approximately 1,000 feet east of the intersection with Trading Post Road. Above is the neighborhood map. The project is considered a project of regional significance since it has the potential to produce housing units that exceed 625 units. The actual request is to construct a 768-unit multifamily development. During the review for a PRS, and this is generally speaking, staff looks at other components that can trigger a PRS, including traffic, sewage disposal, and wastewater. Other components of this project did not rise above or trigger these thresholds, including traffic. And regional planning staff does recognize the conversations occurring in the region regarding traffic and the North Valleys. Conditions of the project exist as approved by the City of Reno to facilitate implementation of the city's concurrency management policies. A regional planning staff has found no significant conformance issues with the proposed project of regional significance and recommends approval based on the findings listed in the staff report. This does conclude staff's presentation, and the proposed motion is overhead and located on page 8, and staff's available for questions on this as well.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Tolley? Okay, seeing none, is there an applicant presentation, or? I guess there would
I don't
be.
believe on this one now.
Okay, all right. Do the commissioners have any questions for anyone, staff or members of the public or anyone? Okay, then I guess we could go ahead and take a motion.
Public
Yes.
comment?
Yeah, Christine, any public comment? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Weisky, do you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, I'll be glad to make a motion
Okay,
for you.
please.
In the case of CR 17-003, I move to find the Lakes at Sky Vista Parkway Apartments project of regional significance in conformance with the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Weisky, a second by Commissioner Vanderwell. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, if not, then I would call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 6B, Public Hearing Regional Plan Amendment RPA 17-001. Consideration and possible action to adopt RPC Resolution 17-01. And Mr. Tolley, I believe you're the presenter again?
That is correct. Again, for the record, Chris Tolley, Regional Planner. This case before you is a proposed regional plan amendment to maps 9 through 11 of the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to add a new regional utility site and relocate and underground a portion of the existing regional utility corridor located generally near the Caramella Ranch planned unit development. I'll go ahead and step through the neighborhood map, which shows the existing corridor, and then the modifications, which include the underground portion, which is the whitish line, dashed line, and then the new above-ground portion, which is the blue line on the right-hand side of the slide, and then the portion that is existing is to be removed. And then this aerial plus the proposed amendments show how it navigates the Rhyolite aggregate pit. Now, the modification to the utility corridor, which is undergrounding and relocating again, were proposed and offered to be paid for as a part of the design element of the Caramella Ranch Estates Planning Unit Development. The following item on tonight's agenda is related to this project of regional significance. The process of amending the regional plan is necessary to finalize the case on the following item. Regional planning staff recommends the Regional Planning Commission adopt Resolution 17-01, recommending adoption to the regional, of the amendment to the Regional Planning Governing Board. And this does conclude staff's presentation. The proposed motion is found overhead for this, as well as on page 21. There is an applicant presentation following me, or not an applicant, but MV Energy, but otherwise I'm available for questions.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Tolley? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Sullivan, are you the presenter? I am. Okay.
I apologize. At my advancing age, I had to go get glasses. I couldn't read my writing. I was going to fill out the speaking card, so I'll do that afterwards. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, Mr. Chairman and Commission members. I am Mark Sullivan. I work with NV Energy, and we're excited about this project. Actually, it's a pretty rare. We have a developer-driven project who they're undergrounding the power line, and they're actually going to pay for it. So we don't see that very often. Actually, I've never seen one in all my being involved in Northern Nevada where a developer actually undergrounded it and paid for it also. So it's kind of exciting to see that happen. Maybe it'll be a trend. Personally, I like overhead lines, kind of breaks the landscape up, but not everybody does. So I understand that this might be appealing to some people. So basically, there's two components to it. It's one project, but it's a substation, which NV Energy's been looking for a substation in the South Meadows area for quite some time. We had a little dip in the economy, and the need wasn't there necessarily, but we're seeing that come back. And you'll notice in this first picture, there's actually a lot of large tracks. And I don't want to shut this off. Is it the top button that's the pointer? I got those little sausage fingers. I can't hit that little button. So anyway, this will kind of orient you a little bit. I guess pointing behind you doesn't help you if you guys have a screen up here, but you'll see on the bottom right-hand side of the picture, there's a couple of green lines. That's the project parameters. There's an orange box there, which isn't to scale, but that shows you where the location of the substation is, which is actually located inside of an aggregate facility that's a current operation permitted through the county. The light blue lines that you see are 120 kV transmission lines. At the very top, you'll see a green line coming into Miraloma substation. That's a 345 line. The blue line that runs down south and then cuts over across the aggregate facility. And you notice it goes right through the aggregate facility. That's the Rhyolite pit, and it's owned by the Benas. And actually, I used to work with them in a previous job, and the day I left that job, they said, hey, can you get that power line out of there? Because they knew I was going to the power company, and it's been 11 years. So I didn't do it very fast, but it's more luck than anything. I didn't have anything to do with it. Anyway, that line comes down and goes over to the steamboat, and that primarily serves southeast Truckee Meadows. And if you look in the, everywhere you can see 395 going north, 431 kind of runs up Mount Rose. Where it says 341 is where Veterans Parkway and Geiger Grade is. There's a roundabout right there, so it kind of orients you a little bit. But you can see there's a lot of large tracts of land out there that are vacant, and some of them may be open space or floodplain, but they're going to get developed eventually, and typically it's going to be an increased density the longer time goes. So we're going to need a facility like this substation in the future. One of the things that we did do with the substation is put a phasing plan in, so which we're going to talk about a little bit here. So this is kind of a close-up. You can see the pit is the aggregate facility is the white area. If you start down on the bottom left-hand side, you'll see a green area. That's actually overhead. That's a transition structure where we drop underground. The undergrounding is in pink, and you can see where it runs up and comes into the substation. All of that's undergrounded. And it basically follows the route where the existing transmission line is. The light blue, which is hard to actually see on the screen here, but the light blue is where the existing overhead line is. So it actually, we've moved the line a little bit over to align with the road that they're planning on developing. And so it comes into the substation, that pink does, underground, goes through the equipment, comes back out of the substation underground, and then it goes, transitions overhead on the south side of the pit. And then it goes, follows pretty much the property line and connects back in where you see the green end actually ends into the existing structures that are there. This is a close-up of where it's coming into the substation and where it's coming out. So the pink's going in on the north side, the top, and then it's coming out on the bottom side. And you can see the dotted blue line on the left-hand side is the property line of Rhyolite Aggregate Facility. And then the darker blue line that runs around the outside of the yellow, which the yellow is a landscaping border. That blue line is the perimeter of the substation site proper. And if you notice, there's a couple different little anomalies with this. One is the views, which I'll show you a picture of the views here in a second, but you look at the setback of the equipment there from the property line, and it's set back, that yellow area that's landscaped is about 10 feet, so it's about 45 to 50 feet those structures are set back. And we have a 14-foot wall there, so actually you have that effect when you're down below looking up at it. You really don't see too much of it. This is actually what they call a low profile or low visual impact substation. So that wall's 14 feet high, and you'll see some of the equipment poking up over it. The highest thing that you're gonna see is their lightning arresters or lightning rods. And those are to collect that if something does hit it, it actually attracts to the lightning rod, and that's why it's the highest element in the substation. And those are a couple inches around. When you get at any distance at all, they disappear. They're pretty hard to see. So this shows you our new design for substations is actually a zero-scape style design to cut back on water usage and those types of things. This is unique in the sense it's much more lush or robust plantings than what we would normally do or what we would normally propose. The developer, again, stepped up and said we want to do more, and he's going to take care of that cost of maintaining it through the homeowners association, which is kind of unique also. We had a couple of spots that we were asked to do a simulation on the road, Western Skies down below, and you can see off the far left, it's kind of hard to read, but it's Demanny High School. Out in the distance there, you can kind of see a white roof. And then the substation I circled for you, so you can see it kind of blends in. I mean, you can see there's a gray background of Rhyolite Aggregate, which is, of course, an aggregate facility. There's a water tank up on the hill that you can't see. There's a house up there. Actually, one of the guys that is a partner in the pit, the family, Steve Bennett's house is up on the hill there. And then that previous shot was about a half mile away. This one here is about a quarter mile away. And again, it blends in pretty well. And again, it's got a pretty robust landscape design, so you see more of that than anything else. And again, like I was talking about, the elevation that you're actually seeing this from and you're actually looking up, when you look up, it's a parallax effect, I guess, where you can't see it because it disappears because of the angle that you're at and the stuff's hiding behind and it's set back. And that's pretty it. I know this is impressive to anybody that knows me, that's all I spoke. There's very little I like hearing more than my own voice.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Any questions for Mr. Sullivan? Yes, Commissioner Shavulicek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mostly a comment. I, for one, really like underground power lines, so so this is a great idea.
Any other questions for, yes, Art?
Okay, so reading through the package and everything, and looking with the Rule 9, I kind of remember that before. The developer himself, what I'm seeing from you guys, it isn't like, it pretty much says it's a customer requested, and so at that point, he would be paying for it, correct?
Yeah, and Rule 9 is pretty complicated, and actually, I have an expert here at Rule 9. It's just a coincidence that she's here tonight, but I'll give you my take on it, and if I mess it up, she'll be right up here to fix
Okay.
it. But Rule 9, basically what it says is that if it's a project that benefits the system overall and other ratepayers, then a portion of that part of the project, that portion of it can actually be allocated to the ratepayers, and the balance is paid by the developer. So this project would be Rule 9 like any other project would be.
So essentially, the reason they're requesting it and they have to pay for it under this.
That's
Okay.
how it would
I just
generally
wanted
work.
to
Right.
make that point a little more
Right.
clear.
He hasn't requested the substation. We're still trying to talk him into paying for it, but
Right, but the
Yeah.
line, gotcha. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Sullivan?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner
Yes.
Reno.
Mr. Reno?
I remember seeing this at the city of Reno, but I don't remember seeing a 15-foot wall. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that wall. Does it have barbed wire on the top? Why so tall? And
yeah,
so forth?
it's a 14-foot wall.
14 foot.
And it's block wall. That was what they had requested. I imagine that eventually there's going to be some design to it. They've talked about several different iterations. We're going to receive that site with the grading work done, with the wall completed, and the landscaping done from the developers, between the aggregate facility owner and the De Loretto Toll Brothers. Those guys that's the product they're going to give us.
Is there barbed wire on?
No
on the
barbed
top?
wire, no, because of the height,
okay.
you know, and that's one of the things typically, we move things away from them, like people are like, well, can't you just put some big boulders in there? Well, people jump on those and jump over the fences and that type of stuff. I mean, I don't know why you want to get in a substation. That's where you get electrocuted. But some people don't subscribe to that. So, yeah, we put the wall up there intentionally we did a low visual impact substation, so it's really a very low profile, and then they put the wall up high enough so when you actually look up there, you're not the idea was to try and hide it by setting it back, low profile design. And it's actually a very unique design. That I'm aware of, we haven't done any here in Northern Nevada. What they do is inside the substation, they've dropped down the equipment and they actually fence off inside the substation around that equipment so our guys don't go near it until it's shut off. So it's very unique. I mean, they do them down in Las Vegas for very sensitive areas, and so this is our first one here in Northern Nevada.
The trees, they're next to the wall, and there's talk of a park being put near that. Is there
Yeah.
any concern with kids climbing the trees and getting over the wall? I know it's a big drop, but
Well, none of them will be placed adjacent to the wall where they'd be able to climb a tree and then get over the wall. Yeah, they're always going to be set back from the wall.
okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Sullivan? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan. Christine, is there any public comment? No. Okay, then I think at this point we could go ahead and entertain a
I'm
motion.
prepared to make a motion.
Yes,
In the case of RPA 17-001, I move to approve the RPC Resolution 17-01 recommending to the Regional Planning Governing Board adoption of the Regional Plan Amendment to maps 9 through 11 of the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan as identified in the staff report.
okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Reno and a second by Commissioner Peterson. Any discussion on the motion? I think we need a supermajority for this, which would be 6 votes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, item 6C, public hearing, regional plan conformance review, project of regional significance, South Meadows substation and transmission line, CR 17-004. And Mr. Tolley, I believe you're the presenter.
Yes, again, good evening, Commissioners, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, Chris Tolley, Regional Planner. So this is the follow-up from the previous case. This is, again, a conformance review for South Meadows Substation and Transmission Line project of regional significance. With the site generally located near Western Skies Road, north of Reading or Reading Street, south of Sandella Court, within the Caramella Ranch Plan Unit Development. The project is considered a project of regional significance for construction of an electric substation and transmission line carrying greater than 60 kilovolts. Above is the neighborhood map of the proposed modifications shown also in the previous item. So the proposal includes construction of a new electric substation and relocation and undergrounding of a portion of an existing transmission corridor. As I noted again, this item is reliant on the Regional Planning Governing Board's adoption of the mapping amendments presented in the previous item. Regional Planning staff found no significant conformance issues with the proposed project of regional significance and recommends approval based on the findings listed in the staff report. So this again concludes staff's presentation. This motion is found on page 34 or overhead. I am available for questions again. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Tully? Okay, seeing none. Is there any applicant presentation, Mr. Tully?
Not for this one. I think
Okay.
it covered
The other one
yeah,
covered?
in the previous item.
Okay, good, good. Okay, any public comment, Christine? Okay. Then in that case, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Yes, Mr. Gower.
In the case of CR 17004, I move to find the South Meadows Substation and Transmission Line Project of Regional Significance in conformance with the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gower.
Second.
A second by Commissioner Vanderwell. Any discussion on the motion? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. We'll go to item 6D, and this is informational presentation, discussion, and possible direction regarding the 2017 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan update. And Lauren, I believe this is your item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is that on? There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. For the record, Lauren Knox, Regional Planning. So for this item, we'll be providing an update on the 2017 Regional Plan. I'll start with some accomplishments to date, and then Damien's going to discuss the results of the flash vote campaign we had, and then I'll finish up with some potential next steps. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see, but we provided this draft process timeline to the governing board in February with an understanding that at this time, with the legislative session, pending litigation, all of these moving parts, this is kind of a bit of a moving target. As you can see on the timeline, there's the 2017 legislative session flag on there. Staff has been spending some extra time on that item due to Assembly Bill 39, which sought to change the makeup of the Regional Planning Governing Board. However, I'm happy to announce that Washoe County withdrew the bill yesterday, and we look forward to working together and getting the regional plan update moving forward with kind of full steam ahead. There's a bit more to tie down on this piece, but it provides a general idea of what's happened and what's currently happening and some potential future next process steps. In terms of the data gathering, communication and engagement, and technical analysis piece that was on the previous timeline, there have been a variety of items that TMRPA has already been involved with or completed. I'm sure you've heard of at least some of these, but for reference, we worked with the Portland State University Urban Sustainability Accelerator Program, which provided a myriad of items, including the TOD workshop and a best practices paper for our region. An analysis of the Truckee Meadows service area, including a complete review of urban service areas in the nations in comparisons to our region. In this report, there are specific recommendations to consider as part of the update. We were put into contact with the UNR School of Journalism, in which a community engagement plan was created for the agency, and we started to implement that and build upon some of those items. And then we were also put into contact and worked with John Horvick, who's a communication engagement specialist, to help develop questions and evaluate surveys. In fact, the flash vote questions that we're going to be talking about a little bit later were developed in conjunction with him. Other accomplishments include, and items currently being pursued, include a review of every policy within the plan and comparing that to what the Nevada revised statutes require. TMRPA has also been very involved with the Land Use and Transportation Resiliency Committee, and we're hoping to utilize the expertise within this group to aid in policy development for the regional plan update. Staff has been reviewing the values identified in plans throughout the region, which we're going to reaffirm with our own survey tools and engagement methods. We've also been involved in community outreach discussions with the UNR Cooperative Extension, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward with the development of a more specific engagement plan for the update itself. Staff has also been involved with Truckee Meadows Tomorrow, which is a committee that reviews indicators, which can be a really helpful tool for the update. And also with the recently completed housing study and industrial land needs analysis will also be used in understanding our baseline and developing policy for the update. As you may remember, we hosted a session back in November where we did an activity on issues identification. We also performed this same exercise with local jurisdictional staff and affected entities. And then with the jurisdictional staff in our monthly coordination meetings, we also looked at major subjects within the current regional plan and asked that these items be prioritized and discussed, as we recognize that with resources and time, there may be some constraints for the update. The results of these exercises are going to be brought forward at the next regularly scheduled RPC meeting, which is in May. And then as we alluded to in the last RPC meeting, we have compiled the results of the first flash vote campaign, and I'm going to turn it over to Damien to discuss those results.
Yes, thank you, Damien.
Thank you, Lauren. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, Damian Kerwin, GIS Planning Analyst with TMRPA. So as some of you may remember, we asked you guys 3 questions in a meeting back in September. I know, a long time ago. And we had you answer them on sticky notes and compile them. We used those 3 questions and 2 additional ones for our most recent flash vote survey that we released to the public. So we were excited to share those with you today. But before I jump to those results, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how flash vote works. So we will send out an initial opt-in email, and then you guys can decide to sign up for it with the username. And then from that, you'll be ready to participate in your first flash vote. You'll get an email alert or a text message alert when the first survey is available. And you will have a couple days to respond to the survey, and then when it closes, you can view the results. So we were pretty pleased with the results. We sent it out to over 600 people, and we had over 300 people respond, which is about a 50% response rate. And the industry standard is approximately 10 to 15%. Additionally, you can see there on the bottom right of the screen that the survey was open for only 2 days. We're looking to actually extend the timeline for our next survey to be open for maybe 3 to 4 days, so as to give people more time to respond to the survey. You can also download the results for offline use with a PDF file or Excel format. And so this is the first question that we had asked. Some of you guys may remember seeing this back in September, but it was basically what best describes your thoughts about growth in the region. And so we took the general public results and the results from the RPC and compared them. The answer that was selected most by the general public, as you can see, was that growth happens and we will deal with it. The planning commissioners, you guys selected the question that you selected, or the response you selected the most, was that growth is beneficial and I welcome it. So you can see kind of that comparison up there. You guys are in the orange color and the public is in blue. The next question that we asked was, when thinking about growth in the Truckee Meadows region, which of the following, if any, are you concerned about as a future problem? And people were able to select more than one option. In the general public, they selected traffic, water, and schools as their top 3 answers. I would like to point out that water only had 1 more vote than schools, so they're really close to each other for the response for the general public. The planning commissioners, you guys selected schools, water, sewer, and stormwater management as your top 3 issues as being the most concerning. I would also like to point out that schools and water showed up in the top 3 for both the general public results and for the RPC. So the next question was a bit of an open-ended question, and we asked you guys and the general public in our flash vote survey to use 3 words they would use to describe your hope and vision for the future of the Truckee Meadows. Some of the words that stood out the most, that were mentioned the most for the general public, was words such as growth, plan, and sustain. Now, if we compare that to your guys' results from the September meeting, it's a little hard to see there, but the two words that popped the most were thoughtful and sustainable. But beyond that, there's some similarities with the results that you guys had responded with and with the public results. And some of those words up there that were chosen that appeared in both the general public and your results were prosperous, vibrant, and controlled. So question 4 was one that we did not present to you guys at the September meeting, but we did use in our most recent flash vote survey. The question was geared at finding out who knew about or heard about Team RPA or who had not heard about Team RPA. For this question, we decided to break it down by age cohort, which I thought was interesting because if you see there who had not heard of Team RPA, it's the younger generation, those who are 30 years and younger, so we just kind of wanted to show it that way so you could see what that looks like. And then the last question was also an open-ended question, and we did not share this with you guys in the September meeting, but we did share it with the general public in our flash vote survey. And it was just for them to provide any comments or suggestions about growth in the Truckee Meadows region. So we selected some of those and put them up above, as you can see. And we're really looking forward to using some of these suggestions and comments with our regional plan going forward. And we're excited to see what our next flash vote survey results hold for us. We can provide you with a link to these results for the first survey. If you guys would like us to email that to you, we can do that. We can also provide you with a link if you would like to sign up for flash vote. The only thing that is not anonymous in flash vote is your username. So if you would like to use an alias, I would recommend that if you would prefer. Yeah, you could switch names.
Why don't we all?
Or you can do like Han Solo or Star Wars or something. So yes, if you have any questions about flash vote, please let me know. And now I would like to turn it over to Lauren for next steps. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a really quick question.
Yes, Commissioner Vanderwell.
How did you guys pick the 300 emails, or where did people sign up?
Sure.
to get
So
these results?
we had used an email list that Tumwa had provided, and we also had some members on there that were just from our Regional Planning Commission and Governing Board mailing list that we knew were general public. And so we decided to utilize those lists, and it got narrowed down to about 600 people just within the Truckee Meadows region.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Lauren?
All right. Okay, so there are a lot of moving parts right now, and we're really excited to be able to put some of these pieces together and move on to more substantive portions of the update. At your seat, we've provided the executive summary of the Emerging Trends in Regional Planning report, which is a report proffered by the APA in their in their Planning Advisory Service. It came out recently. You may find it of interest, and it's also pretty educational as we embark on the update. At the RPGB meeting tomorrow, we're going to be asking the board to potentially allocate some funding to the update effort. We've already spent $30,000 on the Portland State University program, and we also have $34,000 allocated of our own money to this, but we're looking for a potentially larger allocation. Based on the amount of funding that's allocated, we'll then be looking to develop more concrete framework for the 2017 regional plan and start to solidify that scope of the update process. An item that we are looking for some feedback on is the update engagement. So staff has had some internal discussions regarding potential engagement groups, and generally what many entities do with a process like this is have various groups at different points of engagement. So these groups can be focus groups with subject matter expertise, larger working groups throughout the process. The RPC is in charge of updating the plan, so you will be heavily involved there. The RPGB is the final approving body, which will also be involved. And we've also seen things like joint meetings between planning commissions and governing bodies, as well as smaller update or steering committees. Tonight, I think it would be helpful to hear if any members of the RPC have input on engagement models that you've seen that worked well or maybe didn't work so well, because that could be a lesson for us as well. And if members want to go away and think about this a little bit more, we can definitely bring it back at a future meeting. And we're actually setting up a discussion with a community engagement expert with the UNR Cooperative Extension, which I mentioned previously in the PowerPoint here. And hopefully we'll be able to bring back a more solidified plan for engagement and discussion, but we wanted to get your input a little bit early on. So we don't have a specific motion on this item. However, if the RPC would like to give any direction to staff, I have a motion overhead So that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Lauren or Damien? Okay, seeing none.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I just
Commissioner
have a
Vanderwell.
possible
Yes.
question,
Yes.
suggestion, or whatever. On the groups, since each commission only has 3 assignees up to here, is there a way that while we're doing this, that someone from regional planning can come down to our respective commissions to update what's going on? Because sometimes when we're sitting with our fellow commissioners, well, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. So maybe I think that would help educate our other planning commissioners, and especially if they ever have to fill in for us, if they get stuck in the middle of something like this.
Yep.
I think as we start updating, I think to keep them educated too.
It's a great suggestion. Thank you for that.
If I may add to that, I mean, making presentations at the,
Yeah.
at the commissions, but maybe a joint meeting of
of all
all of the
3.
commissions,
Right.
yeah, of the
Yes.
entire bodies.
Yes.
Yeah.
if we could
That's a good
do
idea.
that.
So everybody hears it at the same time, and you don't have to
Correct.
make
Right.
all
Yes.
those trips.
Yeah, that's a
Makes
good
sense.
idea.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Anything else from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Gower.
I'm looking at this diagram and I'm not seeing public anywhere
Yeah.
in any of those circles. Is that for a reason?
Right, this was an engagement plan for groups specifically, but public definitely will be involved, and that's something that we're going to work through with the engagement plan. But I will definitely note that part as a major part of our engagement efforts.
I figured it was.
Yeah, it definitely is. I apologize for that.
Thanks.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion? Is there- Okay.
Do we
Probably
need one?
not
Do
at
we
this
need
time.
one?
I don't think we really need one.
I
so-
don't think
Yeah,
so. No.
okay.
Right now.
Well, then, if there's nothing, is there any public comment on that, Christine? Okay, then I guess at this point, we'll just go ahead and close item 6D. And thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Damien. We'll go to item 7A, members and directors' reports. Have anything on that? Okay, seeing none. Legal counsel's report. Norm, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Norm Azevedo. I have 2 items. With the withdrawal of AB 39, that's going to cause some issues with the pending litigation. As you may recall, I think you've been briefed on this, an action was filed in the first part of this year regarding the process associated with the adoption of AB 39, and it's being brought to the legislature. In that regard, we filed an action that had several different legs to it. And with the withdrawal of that particular bill, a portion of that litigation is going to be mooted by that particular action. Tomorrow, I'll be meeting with the governing board to address how they wish to proceed in this regard, and I can't go any further until I get to confer with my client. But I believe with this recent action, I remain guardedly hopeful that the district court action can be hopefully dismissed by stipulation amongst the parties and to proceed forward. But that requires the governing board and the county to take certain action. So that's where we sit there, and I will have more for you, or Jessica will have more for you at your next meeting as to the status of that particular litigation. Second, Jessica isn't here tonight. She's on a personal leave for a couple weeks. And so one of the benefits of being part of a law firm is I seem to be surrounded with, at least from my perspective, young, really smart, bright lawyers. And so in her absence for this 2-week period, there's an attorney here in the audience, Casey. Casey, why don't you come up and introduce yourself to the commission? These litigations are very time-consuming, and they require a lot of effort. And I have to be candid, aside from being the quarterback, the effort's being brought forward by Jessica and Casey. And I wanted him to introduce himself to the commission. Go ahead.
For the record, Casey Gillum with Dyer Lawrence Law Firm. I've met several of you in my travels here in this area, and just really pleased with the opportunity to work with Norm and work with you folks, and looking forward to it. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wanted you to meet him because these younger, smart lawyers are very gracious when they remind me of the bad habits I've developed over 31 years of smash mouth litigation. And I also have to say it's terrific to have these pleadings produced and show up in my office and say, why don't you move this part just a little bit this way? And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Norm. We'll go to item 8. That's request for future agenda items. Anything on that? Don't see anything. Okay, Christine, is there any public comment? No, there's not. Okay, thank you. Lauren, do we have any written correspondence?
We have none at this time.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Weisky makes the motion. Commissioner Vanderwell seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.